Get pucked.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Pucked. I'll be your host for this 23rd episode. Here with me is Matt and Dave. Yeah, it's the episode 23, guys. Episode 23.
Not bad.
Jordan. I should have done a little homage there to Jordan. Good call on that one, Dave. Guys, I want to jump right into this one. So, on the Jeff Marek show, Elliott Friedman had stated that the Habs were kicking tires on New Jersey's Pavel Zacha. For those of you who don't know Pavel Zacha, which I know both of you do, he is a 24-year-old, 6'3" center, a 6th overall pick in 2015, and his most recent season, he had his best point totals that he's had so far is 35 points in 50 games, and that was last season. In addition, Montreal also seems to be interested in McBain from Minnesota, who has no NHL experience, has done very well for Boston, Boston University, if I'm not mistaken, and is also 6'4" center. So my question to you guys is why? Why would Montreal be targeting Pavel Zacha at this stage? And especially when we think about that, given their draft position, if they do win the lottery pick and they were to select Shane Wright, that would mean that would probably be their, second center, and they've got Dvorak there as well. So, guys, Dave, why? Tell me why, man.
Well, I think the draft pick is irrelevant, right? Because you're not guaranteed Shane Wright, and even if you do, you've seen guys like Tyler Seguin before, centers, that are drafted second overall, play on the third line and take time to develop, right? You can't just rush these guys into your second line center immediately. Pavel Zacha is an interesting name. He was a first round pick, right? Big guy. He kind of, I don't know if it's probably too early to call him a bust, but he certainly didn't live up to his potential. He's drafted 6th overall, I think. So he's a guy who hasn't really done much. I think New Jersey was really hot on him. And I remember when he was drafted a lot, Pierre Maguire, I think, was really high on him as well at the time. And he looked like a guy who was going to, develop into a first line center potential. And we haven't seen that. So, if I can't really tell you why. I don't know what's going on in the front office of the Canadiens, but if you look at it from a Ken Hughes perspective, this is a guy, a center. Canadiens notorious for a need for centers for all these years. Now you could probably never have too many, and why not take a risk if you could buy him low and maybe work him and put him under Marty St. Louis or whoever's going to be the coach next year, and potentially you'll have a second line center there built in, but. Who knows? But I don't see it. I don't see the trade happening. Again, it's kind of out of left field. Like, where is this coming from? I know it's Elliott Friedman. He's, I like Elliott a lot, but it's just kind of too random for me. And he's exactly the type of player I think that the Canadiens should kind of stay away from, right? Like, they can't have too many projects. Like, enough with the projects. Like, I want to trade for if you want to get a center, get an established center. Enough with these, like, oh, this guy didn't work out here, so come onto my team. This guy won't work out here. You know what I mean? Like, I'd like to see something a little bit better than that. But, we'll see what happens. It depends on what he goes for, too.
Something to keep in mind, he's an RFA after this season, and he's currently making $2.25 million.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely going to get a bump. What he's gonna get, I don't know.
Should he get a bump though, man? Like
so exactly, right? I mean, definitely.
Look, let me just jump in. Should he get a bump? Kotkaniemi got a crazy offer sheet and is putting up similar numbers to him, so he might have something to argue that at the very least he should be in that $3-4 million range.
Kotkaniemi is a different type of center though than Pavel Zacha was destined to be, right? So
yeah, your question's why. I also don't know why. Realistically, unless if there's something down the road, if they got something in the wings with moving Dvorak out, like Dave said, there's always a need for centermans. Depth is always there. How many are in the AHL that can come up? You got your Palings who can also play wing. You got your Jake Evans. Is he a 2 right now? No. And 3 maybe you can squish him in there. I can see it. They're big bodies. They're young guys. Maybe for the Pavel Zacha thing, perhaps because it's New Jersey, the proximity to New York, and when Gorton was there, maybe he had his eye on him a bit more and liked what he saw. I don't know. Like you say, right? He's a 6th overall pick. Some guys just take longer. Maybe he's fallen out of favor there. You get him on the cheap. Whatever. It's perhaps a no risk situation as long as you don't overpay for a guy like this. A late pick, fine. You bring him over, and I don't see him getting a big salary bump.
It would take more than a late pick. There's no way they would get.
Well, okay, I'm not saying a 7th, but you don't. I don't know if I'd give a 2nd for Pavel Zacha right now. Like, I really don't. I mean, maybe.
Oh,
Then
I'd
again,
give
do
it
they
a
even
second. I'd
have
give
a
it a second.
second?
I'd
Do they
give it
have
a
one? Do they have one to give right now?
I don't know.
Montreal, yeah, Montreal's got a second round pick to give. Montreal's got all their picks.
Oh, someone's got a pooch.
Sorry.
Okay, so well, it's all right. So okay. Well, I mean, like whatever. At the end of the day, I mean, does it look like he's an NHL player? This kid, yeah, he can obviously play. Is he up to the hype of a 6th overall? Perhaps not yet. Maybe he's a late bloomer, but whatever, right? I just the why. It's like if they came, sure, but for me, there's bigger needs, and I just don't see why you go there now. You know what I mean?
Well, unless I mean, I'm just brainstorming here, and I'm just thinking, unless they figure, okay, we got Suzuki, who's not the biggest center in the world, although he plays a bit of a big game in a sense, right? And even if they do draft somebody like Shane Wright, and like Dave says, it doesn't mean he gets plugged into the second hole right away. They figure, why not get a big body center who and add a bit of a balance down the middle in terms of size, rather than having a bunch of small people down the middle. Maybe that, like you said, also he is young. Some players take a little more time. Some players also can blossom on another roster on another team. He is only 24 years old, and he's an average 30 to 35 point getter, somewhere along the lines of like 15 to 18 goals.
I mean, to be, if we're talking Pavel Zacha, to be fair, he's 35 points in 50 games last year. Right now, he's 28 points in 56 games. Likely, he's going to pass the 35 mark. He'll hit around 40 potentially by the end of the season.
Those are third line numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's not terrible stuff. McBain is like, I think he's a pure prospect, right?
He hasn't played a single game in the NHL
Yeah,
yet.
so that's just if maybe they just know something or have had his eyes on him for a while. Like again, right? This is just things
Jack
that,
McBain's from Boston College, right? So I think
and there you have it, and there's your connection. So
Boston
anyways.
College, he's over a point a game this year, and if you actually go read up on his performance this year, he's really taken a jump up in terms of his development and in terms of his game in comparison to previous years. So. And it doesn't look like Minnesota is able to sign him.
Yeah, if the cost is low, yeah, I heard that too. They're having problems trying to sign him. So if the cost is low, then yeah, I think they're no risk moves. Why not? But it's not the moves that the organization needs.
You know, there's a lot of hype right now on Jack McBain and people talking about him on. But to me, when has that historically? I mean, maybe I'm wrong here, but when has that ever worked? Where they draft a guy, he was drafted, I think, in the 3rd round. All of a sudden, he puts up points in college, and now the team that drafted him, they can't sign him, and he's dealt somewhere else. And when has that ever worked before? To me, I don't know. It's buyer beware again for a guy
Adam
like
Fox.
that. I wouldn't want to give. Yeah, okay, that's a bit different. I think.
Yeah, but you could say Adam Fox, but on the flip side, you could say Jimmy Vesey too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Jimmy Vesey, another.
You know what I mean? Like he had one good season, and
yeah. So it's just I don't know. Buyer beware. In for me when it comes to Jack McBain, but again, I haven't seen him play, so I can't really say anything at all. It's just like sometimes there's these hype behind these players all of a sudden because it's towards the end of the year. I remember it was the same for the Leafs signing a bunch of college guys back in the day. It didn't work out for them. Christian Hansen and all those guys. It's going to be great. And it doesn't usually work.
It's because it's Montreal, baby. The second Montreal is interested in a player, all of a sudden, boom, this guy's going to be the next star.
I understand, but then Habs also have a history of like overpaying for some.
Absolutely,
some guys.
that's what I'm saying. If the price is right, it's a low risk. I agree.
All right, that's enough about Pavel Zacha and McBain for now, guys. Josh Manson was traded to the Colorado Avalanche for a 2023 second-round pick and a blue line prospect by the name of Drew Helleson. When this trade was made, people start to compare Chiarot and Manson and automatically suggested that the market was made and it could have lowered Chiarot's value.
Disagree.
What do you think?
Disagree.
Matt, what do you think?
Disagree. I don't think it set the market on him in any way, shape, or form. I think they're completely different defensemen. I think Chiarot's wealth of playoff experience, especially in recent months rather, is testament to what he can do for a team. Not to take anything away from Josh. He's a great player, and I think his best season was a couple of years ago, and he was like really torching it. I don't think he's hit those numbers since. That's not to say I wouldn't take a guy like him on my team. I just don't think that the two are giving the team that's acquiring them the same skill sets. It's just different. I mean, you want a bench on your team because he's going to move bodies and he's got that slap shot and he's got that leadership quality and that grit and you're not going to be pushed around. It's just a different kind of aspect. And in addition, I think the Habs are pretty firm. I think they've got the message out there, and they basically told the teams there's X amount of suitors that are out there. I mean, go on Twitter and you'll see every insider telling you this team's in, from St. Louis to Pittsburgh to Toronto to all over the place. At one point, I think I read there's 8 teams that were interested in him. How many teams came out of the woodworks and said they were interested in Josh? What's his last name? Mason?
Josh
Manson?
Manson.
That's Dave Manson. That's Habs legend Dave Manson's son.
Yeah, get that right.
Throw some respect on that name. Anyways, to my point, I would take right now for a playoff push, I would take a Ben Chiarot over him, and I think that what you saw, the value of that trade, which that prospect is a solid prospect. I expect an equivalent solid prospect to be in return for Ben Chiarot, but I expect the pick to be a first round pick. I do.
Okay, so you already jumped into a whole other question, but all right then. Just to note that Josh Manson's best season points wise was 37 points in 80 games, and that was 2017-18. And you are right,
Yeah.
they've not been able to hit those totals since.
Yeah, but and I don't think he has the playoff games either. How many seasons did Anaheim make the playoffs recently that they went deep? That he's got the experience.
He's only got the total of 22 playoff games since 20, and the last time they made the playoffs, or that he was part of the playoffs, was in that 2017-18 season.
Okay, so it's a couple years removed. The guy's never even seen playoff hockey. So no, I don't think it set the market at all. That's not to say he's a bad defenseman. I just don't think they're the same. It's the same sort of player, the same sort of skill set, experience. I don't think it changed anything.
Dave, I feel like you're giving me the look like you feel differently. Tell me why, Dave.
Yeah, I do a bit feel differently. I like Josh Manson a lot. I think I like him a little bit on the long term better than Ben Chiarot, to be honest.
Fair.
But even so, fine. They're kind of similar, and I would have expected their value to be similar, right? And it's telling that Anaheim moved them because, if Anaheim thought they could get more, they obviously would have waited, and they would have, and that, which is what the Habs are doing, right? The Habs are waiting out for that first overall pick that apparently is out there that they're apparently not taking yet.
First round.
What did I say?
First overall.
Oh yeah, sorry. First round. Sorry. So yeah, first round pick that apparently it's out there, but they're not taking. They're waiting it out and seeing what they can get. I find it hard to believe that Anaheim didn't get offers like that, and the Habs did. I think that Josh Manson is very similar in terms of value to an NHL team, and I think that. Yeah, fine. Ben Chiarot does have a little bit more playoff experience, which I could understand. But I think that I would have expected the return to be very similar. And him being traded this early, most likely because Colorado wants to wheel and deal and they want to make more moves. And they kind of said, hey, either we make the trade now or that's it. We're done. We'll circle to another team. But it leads me to believe that that's the best offer Anaheim got by far, probably.
Well, it could also be they traded him away a little too early. Just a little bit, and maybe they didn't want to play a game of chicken and wait till the last minute to do so.
That's fair, but that tells me that perhaps the offers aren't there either for Ben Chiarot. And the talk a couple of weeks ago was, man, if you could get a first round pick and a prospect for him, pull the trigger. What are you waiting for? You're not going to get better than that. That means that offer has not come in yet to Josh Gordon. To Ken Hughes. That has not come in yet for Jeff Gordon. That means that's not available right now. So maybe it's just a first round pick. Maybe it's just a second round pick. We don't know what the things are, but obviously they're not getting what they want yet. And I think that Josh Manson trade worries me a little bit in the sense that if it wasn't there for Anaheim, why would it be there for Montreal? And maybe it is a game of chicken, and on trade deadline day, people panic and they make the move that they need to make. But it just makes me worry just a little bit. It gives me a little seed of doubt. It plants a little seed of doubt in the back of my mind. That maybe it's not the return isn't as crazy. People are not jumping, as they say. There could be 8 teams interested, but there could be 8 teams interested with a second round pick in their hands, and that's what they're willing to pay. And that doesn't mean that there's 8 teams interested willing to pay the world for Ben Chiarot either. And so that to me, I mean this in the nicest way to Ben Chiarot and to the Canadiens. Ben Chiarot's not worth a first round pick and a prospect. I mean, that to me, I don't think that is worth. In a trade deadline and where people need to make moves to get into the playoffs, then perhaps. But
I think it's circumstance. I think
it's
and you said it before too.
Circumstance.
But the hype machine around him also was so much greater than it was for anybody else.
Yeah, but hold on a second. I know you're saying he's not worth a first round pick, but at the same time, when you look back the last couple of years and you're hearing Savard and Foligno and all those players going,
but those are all mistakes.
They are mistakes, but every year in and year. year in and year out, we always hear about these mistakes.
I'm telling you that hockey general managers are among the worst general managers out there.
Which is why I will be disappointed if Ben Chiarot moves,
I
and
agree.
it is not for a first and a prospect or a
Former first round prospect.
a former, yeah, like if it's
Yeah.
straight up for Peltier or something, like
No, you
Well,
ain't getting Peltier for
I know
for
that.
Chiarot
I
alone.
know that. I'm not suggesting that we will, but I'm saying if it's something like that, a 1-for-1, and there's no picks, then sure, absolutely, you pull the trigger, right? But I would be at this point, after the hype machine has gobbled me up also, I will be disappointed if he gets the same returns. I will.
Okay, so
That's fair. And I'm not saying he won't get what what we think he's going to get. It's just if I'm a general manager, I'm not paying that price for Ben Chiarot.
Which is fair, and he's probably not worth it. But right now, in this circumstance, with the beauty of the history of it just playing out in the last playoffs, and you saw what he was able to contribute, and you haven't seen a guy like Manson in 4 years or whatever in the playoffs, that's kind of why you dangle that. You're like, look what he just did. This is a guy who has Stanley Cup experience.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just the hype machine, I think, really helps in this.
Hey, the last, not last game, the game before, that play he made, that almost cross ice pass. He's Ben Chiarot, the playmaker. Don't you fucking forget about that.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right, guys, I need each of you, to give me one team that you think Ben Chiarot is going to be traded to, and what do you expect or what do you want from that team for Ben Chiarot, Dave?
Oof. Okay. I think the Blues make sense. I think that the Blues. The Blues make sense, and in the sense because they have a prospect there that I really like. I don't think they'll be able to get him again. They have a guy like Zach Bolduc over there. He's a big center. For a former first round pick. He's a guy who could, I think that that would suit well for the Canadiens to get in a deal. I don't think they'll be able to get him. There's also, Neighbors, a guy. I don't know if that's who Matt's hoping to get over there, but they're definitely. I'm telling you, you're definitely not getting Neighbors. I'll tell you that. Okay?
Probably not.
I'll tell you that. But I'm just saying that the Blues would be my pick if we're just gonna, select a team that has interest. I think they can make it work. The Leafs, forget them, man. They have no cap room for that. I don't know. I don't see it. The Panthers. I just, for me, it's the Blues. But who knows, really?
Matt, your turn.
Oh, I would have liked Dave to pick somebody else so that we can have a little bit of a different dialogue here.
No.
I mean, I'll try to do that myself on the fly. I mean, to be fair, I would have said St. Louis also. I think that he fits that culture. He fits that team very well. I also think that, yes, in a perfect super package ideal world, you get Neighbors, you get like a pick, and you move on with your day. And I think that is a phenomenal return. Even if the pick is obviously, it wouldn't be a first, I think, if Neighbors is packaged in there. But that there's a connection there with other players on the team. I think that would be great. Since Dave took it, where would I see him go? Let's say, oh man, I don't know. Let's say Calgary. Calgary showed interest. Calgary wanted to get it done, package him in with the full. Let's say Calgary comes back at the 11th hour, and then makes a push for him. What you'd get out of Calgary, since everybody's saying that there's no way, shape, or form Peltier is going to move. Well, then you don't even have their first anymore. We have their first, so I guess what you try to get their 2023 first.
That's not gonna happen either,
and that's not happening. So like, I can't see what they're gonna do there. So I mean, it is St. Louis to me. I think is the one that's the front runner there personally.
If it was going to happen with Calgary, I think the Calgary Flames could have got him cheaper had they packaged him with Toffoli. I think that would have been the way for Calgary to get him. So I don't think Calgary. I think Calgary's out in my mind. I think the next logical choice would be the Rangers, right? Just because of the connection there, and they have players there that prospects that the Canadiens are obviously probably interested in, and especially with Jack Hughes and wow, man, I keep saying these names terribly wrong. Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon. Anyways, so yeah, that's that would be
a dream would be, and I mean, even I would probably add to it if it meant that I would get him, would be for me to land Peltier from Calgary, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with maybe the Rangers and say somehow you get Nils Lundqvist out of there and maybe a second round pick, third round pick, somewhere around there, and I would be okay with that. And I'd be happy. And at least you address something on the right side defense, and you bring in an asset on the right side defense, and see what you can, what the draft, what happens at the draft. It's looking more and more like Montreal might actually end up keeping Lehkonen. Even recently, they said that it's come out that Kent Hughes is coming out saying that Lehkonen is pretty much like made the fabric of the team. He's a makeup of the fabric of the team. And
well, he's like, like a car salesman. He's tapping the hood and being like, this is a solid beast, and you'll have it for years and all this stuff. Like, and I love Lehkonen, but he's doing his job to get the value as high as he can. I think if someone comes out and doesn't give a first but gives a phenomenal package, you're still going to see Lehkonen go. I really do. I like what he's been doing. I think he's been doing nothing but driving up his own value. But I mean, obviously we talked nothing about Lehkonen, but yeah,
another team that's possible, but I just don't think I don't think they're going to be willing to trade any of the assets, and I just think it would cost too much. Even more on Chiarot would be LA, and getting somebody like Brent Clark and all that, it'd just be way too costly. But that's another good pick that I would like to get, or a good player. Guys,
I think is it's only a matter of time before Chychrun ends up there.
That's why I also think it's not going to happen with LA, mainly because
I think he might go to Florida. I think he might go to Florida, and if Florida doesn't land him, I think they might take a real strong look at Chiarot, and then all of a sudden you might get the leverage.
I think it sounds like Florida might also be looking at something else. Rumors have it out there that they might like to bring in Giroux. I don't even know how they would fit him in a sense. I know they just got traded away Vetrano, so they're going to try making the.
They're
cap
starting,
work.
Yeah, they're starting to make room.
At the same time, you've got Barkov in the middle, you got Reinhardt, you got Bennett. There's so many centers there, and I know. Bennett is playing on the wing too sometimes, but it just and I know you've mentioned before, Dave, on a previous episode, Giroux can be moved to the wing as well. So there's that versatility there, and yeah, it would definitely give Florida an extra bump. That's for sure. Having Claude Giroux there, but guys, I want to move on. Jake Allen is returning a few days before the trade deadline. Do you think that he is available?
Available, yes. Will he get dealt? No.
Okay, if he is to get dealt, if he does get dealt, what is your expected return for him, Dave?
Oh man,
I don't know, man. I don't even think it's worth it. Probably a second round pick, maybe a prospect that a mid-level prospect. That would be my guess. I mean, I don't know. What's Jake Allen providing you other than a backup goal? He's a backup goaltender. Everybody knows Jake Allen's a backup goaltender. He's a solid backup goaltender, but he's a backup goaltender. There's nothing more than a backup goaltender. Why would you give up more for that?
Well, I mean, there's teams that need goaltending depth right now for the playoffs. There are teams that have already gotten some interest, and we know there are teams right now that are classified as contenders that have no goalie at all. Or their goalie is just shitting the bag right now.
Are you talking about Toronto? Because if you're talking about a team
like
Toronto,
there's Toronto. You have Colorado too. That I mean, their goaltenders are not the greatest
Jake Allen's
either.
Not an improvement on either. I'm sorry, he's an improvement on the long run because he's durable, but in the playoff run, he's not. I don't think so. I don't agree at all. Jake Allen tends to, when he plays a lot, and he's got the
Halak factor.
He tends to not do well. So I don't think he's an improvement on either. Or I don't think you can take it seriously.
Yeah,
if you have Jake Allen.
I gotta agree with Dave on this one too. I mean, again, I like to find something to debate with Dave here, but I don't see him moving. I think he's going to come back. I mean, I don't
see him as part of a package, though. Maybe Washington.
I mean, yeah, but like he's not like a guy who's carrying like a $2 million cap either, right? He's not just a guy you can throw in there. So it's got to become a hockey trade at that point.
Jake Allen's 2.875.
He's not more than that.
No, he was 4.1.
Okay,
but
that's
then
what I'm thinking.
Bergevin extended him to 2 years at 2.875. He's got one more year after this one at 2.875. I personally think there's a possibility and a good fit there for a team like Washington, where Washington has Samsonov and Vanacek, which are two very young goalies.
There's always a possibility.
Playoffs with that, but
I just don't see it. I don't see why you move him for what you're going to get for him. That's my point. Why move him for just a team second who's going to finish somewhere? That second is going to be, I don't know what, in the low 40s or something like that, or high 50s pick. Like. And Jake Allen is better served here doing what he does for next year than what you're going to get from him. So, no, I don't see him moving.
And they don't have someone in place. Like, don't give me the Sam Montembeault won the Molson Cup.
No.
He's got that guy is not a NHL goaltender. Okay, he can have a good run, a good game, a good whatever you want, but you're gonna see.
Dare you
goals
speak of
No,
Monty
but you
that
know
way?
what?
Monty.
If anything, you keep Jake Allen so that he can play games with Montembeault, and you get Primo sent the shit back down so he can
hold
see
on.
some ice.
You've got Carey Price too. That looks like he's
Well, we don't know with
coming
Carey.
back
I mean,
practically.
I don't even want to speculate about that. Yes, he looks good. Yes, he's doing his lateral movements and things are progressing. But I mean, you do not want to rush this guy back.
Matt, are you doing your lateral movements?
I am doing my lateral movements.
Guys, we're getting a little older. Are you guys doing your stretches?
I'm bobbing and weaving
Not
in the
enough.
chair.
Okay, guys, do you expect a big splash or a surprise trade to happen with the Habs by trade deadline? A player that, I mean, pretty much everybody's been mentioned in Montreal, but somebody that in your minds is like, okay, it's not happening at trade deadline. If it does happen, it'll be in the off season or it's not going to happen at all.
I'm not 100% sure you can actually expect a surprise. I think those are.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what. So you're not saying by trade deadline to like do I suspect a
Okay,
player?
okay, right, not
Okay.
Fuck
I'm just
off.
busting your balls. I understand your question.
Okay.
The question is,
Fuck off.
do you think there's going to be?
Do you
something-
think there's going to be a surprise trade
I get it.
or a splash of some kind that we didn't expect, something bigger coming out of Montreal?
Coming out of Montreal, I would say no.
No,
I don't think so. I mean, I'd like to think that yes, but it's crazy how like the narrative has changed, right? Because when they first got hired, it was like, oh man, Hoffman's going, Drouin's going, Chiarot's going, Lekkonen's going, everybody's going, Kulak's going, and then now it's like, oh, they might only trade Ben Chiarot, the only obvious guy.
I will still be disappointed.
Bob is saying that LA's looking for snipers.
Listen.
You have a list. I want to see your list of people that you take. I mean, I'm sure you have a book with a list of the people you take seriously. Not that Incarcerated Bob isn't serious. I'm just saying that you guys rattle off some names sometimes that is just like, why are you guys listening to these people?
So I don't. To be honest, I don't listen to them. But
yeah, okay.
No, I don't. Sometimes I read them and I have a good chuckle, or I try to play out in my mind how it could work.
It's like Eklund. It's fun. It's fun stuff to read.
No,
like,
Eklund's an extreme. Eklund's like, I mean,
you know, he's not that much more extreme than everybody else. Nobody else gets
honestly, a lot of the guys that get brought up and we joke and we had that episode a little while ago where he found some rando tweets with the tinfoil hats on. These guys are crazy. IB has come out with some stuff. I'm not going to discredit him. He does have some ears and some eyes somewhere. So I'm not going to say no to him. The other guys, whatever. It's just fun to watch it and fun to watch the comments go. But I want to answer your question in terms of a surprise. There are the premium guys we keep talking about in the list of like, yes, if Chiarot goes, everybody expected it. Lekkonen, well, he's been talked about for ad nauseum. Hoffman too, you expect him to go, even Kulak. It'd be the tier under. That would still surprise me. If they move Dvorak, it would surprise me. If they move Drouin, it would surprise me. You know what I mean? Like,
is his question.
I don't expect these guys to go. I really don't. But you do see movement and things happening on the roster, and it is peculiar. They just sent down Perreault this afternoon, right? You got Yolonen, who was called up, didn't play, but he's waiver exempt, but they're still sending Perreault down. There's these things, like the wheels are in motion for something. I don't know. Dvorak's coming back. You know, they're going to get a roster spot. They
got to make room first off, and then they're sending down their expendable players.
Well,
yes, probably shouldn't have been on the roster in the first place. So
true,
it's not too much of a mystery to me. Especially when you get a good waiver pickup like Pitlick, and he has to play obviously and stuff like that. So you got to send down the. I don't want to say mean things, but the lesser players who haven't made an impact.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it is what it is.
Same question, but not just for the Habs, for every team in the NHL. Do you think there'll be a surprise big splash trade?
I would have said yes, because the Leafs need a goalie desperately. Not desperately, but they need a goaltender if they want to make and Jake Allen's not the answer, sorry, but I would expect them, like, how many times can you go into the playoffs if you're the Leafs with what you have and expect things to be different? And if you're a guy like Kyle Dubas who prides himself on I just how it doesn't make sense to me. And I know Jack Campbell's a good goaltender and he's going through a rough patch now, and I think he could overcome it. But do you want to bank on that? Do you want to Do you want to really, really, really hope that that's going to happen? And you're weighing in your whole reputation and that it's become a joke of getting out of that first round.
Yeah.
Speaking of Toronto, latest rumor was apparently Dubas kicked the tires or inquired about
Varlamov. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So that's what I was going to say. If
which
there's
I'm
a
not
splash,
very confident about that
There's
either.
no-
yeah, maybe Varley would be a splash. Giroux out there getting moved again, not a surprise. It's been talked about forever, but like if he does move, to me that will be the big dog move of the trade deadline. I think Giroux going to a team, if it's Florida, if it's Colorado, or it's wherever the hell. I think he only named 3 different places, right? Wasn't Minnesota the other place, or something like that? So if he goes anywhere else, right, that would be a surprise. But it's so hard to tell.
I don't know, but just say something. It could be something crazy and ludicrous. You don't want to put your names out there. Is that it?
Ludicrous.
I just don't think there is. I don't see anything crazy other than the Leafs getting a goaltender, and I don't know how or where they would.
I don't see them getting a goaltender. I know
don't
they want
see it either,
to,
but
I don't. Yeah.
They want to address. They want to practically address every position. They want a centerman, a defenseman, and a goalie with the no cap space that they have.
Yeah,
they're pretty set on some of those things. I mean, defenseman would be ideal, obviously, but they need a goaltender more than anything. I think, at least.
Vito, give me a name. Give me a name, Vito. Who out there do you expect? And then I'll tell you if I think I would agree, and I'd be like, oh yeah, you're right. Shock me.
Random. It could be random, or do you want like a big splash? Like
I want you to answer your own question. Give me the splash surprise that is going to dazzle us all. Who do you see on the move?
I'll give you 2. They're both from Vancouver.
Okay.
Brock Besser and Tyler Myers.
Tyler Myers is not a
Tyler
huge
Myers.
deal.
No, he's not. He's not, but he's a random name. But I'd go more Brock Besser. I think Brock Besser
would be okay. I'll give you Brock Besser.
Brock Besser,
and that's again, I wouldn't be just so surprised though if Brock Besser got dealt. But
I still don't agree with him moving. I guess that's what it is. I think Jim Rutherford came in and said, "Fuck it, we're gonna ruin this team too." I know he's got a Stanley Cup, but he's got this. He won a recent Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby and Malkin and Letang. Or you know what I mean? It's. I don't give all the credit to him on that, but
I have a funny Jim Rutherford story, but I can't tell him on air, so I'll have to tell you guys off air.
Love it.
Too bad, listeners. Sorry.
Sorry. This ain't TMZ, brothers.
It's not bad. Don't get me wrong. It's not bad, but it's just funny. It encompasses what I think of Jim Rutherford as a person.
Old school man. So that's why I think for me Brock Besser is more of a bit of a what the fuck, is because technically he should still stay with Vancouver. He's not an asset that you should just trade away unless the guy outright comes out and says, I want out. I don't want to be part of Vancouver anymore. Like, he should be part of the solution going forward.
For sure.
But Vancouver tends to do this. Doesn't matter which GM comes in. They seem to always get a bunch of players that they're good pieces, and then somehow, some way, make them look like the bad guy, and they get traded off.
Like here, for example, you talk about splash, right? So I go and bring up TSN's hockey trade bait board, right? Just for fun, just to see. Oh, is there a name on it? The number one guy is Claude Giroux, right? That's their number one guy, so he would be the big splash. Ben Chiarot is 4. Just to let you set where the bar is. Ben Chiarot is the number 4 big get. Then you can go down a bit. Like, here's another one, for example. Number 8 is Jacob Middleton. Number 12 is Marc-Andre Fleury, and I'm pretty confident he came out and said he's really not interested in leaving Chicago right now. So that's gone. Shea Weber's contract is at 19. You know what I mean?
They have Toronto first rounder on their trade.
Toronto first rounder at 27. You know, like, there's not a lot of big stuff out there. Kessel at 46. I mean, there's names. I guess you could play with this. Philip Zadina, 58. Like, there's names. I don't expect splash. I expect a lot of movement. Like, of these pieces, little teams tweaking to get a little bit of piece, and you're going to see a bunch of picks going around. But I don't know if all of a sudden you're going to see this massive trade to some team that's going to go all in this year. I don't know if that's the year. I don't know. I don't see it.
We'll see. Hopefully, from now till Monday, it'll be fun. Guys, are the Calgary Flames Canada's best chance at winning a cup?
Well, it's them or one other team, is it not?
Well, there's Edmonton too. That's on the fringe. So you got 3 teams there that are.
I'm laughing to depressed when you said Edmonton. Way to go, Vito.
Yeah, I guess, and I mean, that's not even to take a shot at Toronto anymore, because it's just Calgary is in fact a good team. and they're playing well, and they have the defense, and they have the goaltender, and they definitely got the scoring power. They're a good team. I mean, they're not even maybe Canada's best shot. You might have them as perhaps not favorite, but you could definitely say
They're up there.
you expect them to go far.
They've got a well-rounded team, and they got Daryl Sutter, who loves defense.
Yeah, I can see Calgary being the favorite, definitely from Canada. And again, not even to shit on the Leafs like I like to do for fun. It's just forget the first round thing. I think their goaltending is just not up to snuff for and their defense, frankly. For playoff hockey. I don't think that team is built for playoff hockey. I think they're built to be season juggernauts, and they're not built to be playoff contenders. And so, yeah, definitely, I can see them being the favorite, Calgary.
No, I still think that I'll go with the Leafs. You saw it last year. They played well against Montreal. They were a goal away from eliminating them in 5. Like a bad bounce away, or even just like a sick Carey Price. Failure to make a 6 save away from eliminating them in 5, and who knows what the damage they would have done there. I think the Leafs are a good team. They do have a huge hole in the goaltending position, but Jack Campbell can get hot. We've seen it before, where he goes on these crazy runs. And, there was a talk at some points with Jack Campbell, if you remember earlier on. So he does go on these crazy runs. The defense, it's not as bad as people think it is. I think that if everyone's healthy there, Jake Muzzin and everybody comes back and they're healthy, I think that they have it. And then they just have, they have the Hart candidate, Austin Matthews, scoring at a ridiculous pace. You have Mitch Marner, you have John Tavares, you have depth everywhere. You have Nylander. I think they're a very scary team.
He's a big splash player that might surprise Nylander.
Nylander's not going to get dealt.
I don't think they deal Nylander.
There's not a chance.
Maybe not at the trade deadline, but Nylander, I feel like he's the guy that's going to move out of Toronto.
I think Mitch Marner moves before William Nylander.
Now that's a hot take.
I think so. I honestly.
That's a nice hot take right there.
We bet a meal on it.
Well, I don't think any of them are gonna. Well, I mean, like we're talking in the next 3 years, because after that, who knows what happens.
Let's bet that Nylander goes before Marner does.
Okay.
Out of Toronto.
Okay, fine, deal.
We'll discuss the terms of which kind of meal, because caliber and all that. We'll discuss that later.
For sure. Okay, fair.
Okay. Nylander goes before Marner. You're choosing Marner goes before Nylander.
Yeah.
Done.
And I don't think that either of them will go, is what I'm saying. But if they do, I think Marner goes before Nylander. But anyways.
I am
Toronto.
so gonna get my belt for nice hot dog.
I can't get behind them, man, until they show me something in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, but that's it. But I mean, they almost did last year. They collapsed 100%. But
that's what they do.
Games, they were like, "Oh man, this is a juggernaut. The Leafs are for real."
Listen, yeah, okay, but they were also beating the shit for the first 3 games out of a team that everybody was saying shouldn't be there, and if it was a regular season, they would have made. So that played out the way it should be. I don't see Toronto getting past, and again, last year with the weirdness, like they would never get to the Stanley Cup Finals because they got to go through Tampa. They're not going to beat Tampa. Sure. They'd have to go through Florida. I don't see them beating Florida. New York.
We'll see.
Yeah,
I mean, I think they could beat all those teams. I think they could beat all.
Can they? They have. Can they? Certainly in a season. Something happens with their brains. They hold their sticks tighter in the playoffs. There's more pressure.
But once you win that first round, I really think that pressure.
Then yes,
and then
1,000,000,000% yes. The time,
and so now
the
it
season.
Becomes, can they win a round?
Yes. Can they? Can they? Once they get past that first round, it becomes scary. Yep. But
okay, guys. Rem Pitlick. Should the Habs re-sign him? And if so, how much and how long?
Yes. I'd give him 3 years at $2 million a year.
8 years supermax deal. Love Rem Pitlick. Love him.
Don't make the same mistake you made with Paul Byron. Is what I'm saying. You gave Paul Byron 3.5. It looked great at the time, and then now it's the favorite. Oh, let's deal Paul Byron. Put him on the waivers. Hopefully, he's a throw into every deal. There's a reason nobody wants Paul Byron, is because that's a lot of value for a guy like that. And I get that they're not the same player, and Pitlick has a bit more upside, but just you haven't seen it yet. Sign him to a 3-year deal and see what happens.
Definitely.
Paul Byron was on a fair deal before the 3.4, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the deal was okay. It's just that once that 3.5 kicks in, that's where it hurts, and that's where you have that mistake.
Yeah,
You
he
have
was
a
on
guy
that
who's untradeable.
$1.16 million deal for 3 years before he got to
The
3.4.
Canadians tend to fall in love with the great bottom six players, and you got to get
Well,
away from that mentality.
the
And
old,
it's fine, and you need them.
the old
but-
regime did that. I don't know how these guys feel about it.
Well, that's it. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You got to avoid it.
Yeah.
You got to avoid
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I got to agree. You definitely sign this guy. That I
like
think
him
there's
a
no
lot,
doubt
yeah.
in my mind. You're definitely signing him. You definitely want it to be something digestible. High twos, maybe 3 is a cap there. And
I wouldn't go 3.
well, it depends, man. It depends what you see with this guy.
I
Right now,
wouldn't
his
go- I wouldn't go
progress, if you pace him out over an
mid-twos is my
82
max.
season, okay, granted, I think his shooting percentage right now is at 32% or some insane
Yeah,
number.
that's why
but
it
yeah.
would be like a mid two. You'd have to give him something that's digestible. That if this was a flash in the pan type of moment, that you just
Definitely.
it's movable,
Definitely.
right? Or it's
Yeah,
digestible, or
definitely.
you could
Again,
not-
playing on the team, no pressure, no anything. Like you got to remember all these things. You can't fall in love with a player.
and
You
you
know,
got to
you
make
gotta-
sure
you
you
gotta
don't
give
confuse
Dave his
yourself
props
with
for that,
Ren
by the
Rett
way.
and Tyler Pitlick. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got the
I can't
Pitlick
wait.
family.
I can't wait to see that happening.
I
But
can't
gotta
wait to
give
see
Dave the
Pitlick
boost
passing
real
it to
fast
Pitlick
here.
and shooting, and Pitlick shoots and scores. Pitlick.
Dave has been the only guy that I've seen mention the fact that perhaps we're seeing the team play well because of the laissez-faire attitude, because they're out of the picture and whatever, no one expects anymore. I haven't seen really anybody talk about that. And I do think that that's an interesting aspect when you look at this team right now. And I hope that's not the case. I hope Dave is wrong, because you're watching these players do magic out there. Even losing 6-3 yesterday to Arizona, you still watch them compete, you watch them play, you watch this good hockey. So I hope that's not the case, but it is something that people have to keep in mind. It's going to be interesting. Yes, next year, a whole new ballgame. Like don't expect a tanking type team again next year. I don't see that. It's going to be different. That's all I'm saying.
Guys,
Kudos to you, Dave.
this is probably the most important question of the entire episode.
Oh boy.
All
My
right,
God.
and I want to know.
You came loaded with questions today. What's up?
Yeah,
Let's
I
go.
want to know. This is the most important. This is the biggest one. Personally, I could come out insulted, depending on your answer of this this
Nice.
question.
Oh.
All right. So I want to know, guys. You have to pick only one that you can eat for the rest of your lives: pizza or pasta.
Man,
Oh,
it's
wow.
a tough question, but it's an easy question if you think about it. Like longer than
Dave, hit me.
I mean, it's obviously has to be pasta, right? Because you have so much. You have so many different things. You have fettuccine, you have spaghetti, you have macaroni and cheese. You have some people consider gnocchi to be pasta. You have such a wide variety of different dishes you can make with pasta. Whereas when you go to a pizza's a pizza. Whatever, man. You can move past pizza, and there's a lot of bad pizza places out there. There's also a lot of bad pasta joints out there, but you can make good pasta at home. You can make good sauce at home.
Is it all pasta against all pizza, or is it like a particular pasta against a particular
It's
pizza?
not particular. It's
It has to
literally
be all.
It's
You can't-
But
pizza
there's
versus
so many
pasta.
different kinds
that's
of
what I'm
pastas
saying.
out there. That's a really, I mean, and I love pizza. Like I'm a massive pizza guy. I can't see my life without it. I've come to really enjoy my pastas, but it's like the diverse. You know what? Just pizza.
You would pick
Yeah.
pizza?
I would have to say pizza. As much as I like my pastas, and I really do,
Man, no more
can't-
macaroni salad for you. No more macaroni.
I can't.
and
How
cheese
could
for
I
you,
not have
no
a
more
pizza
fettuccine
again? That would
Alfredo for
be
you, no more
that.
spaghetti for you.
No, but I do like my spaghetti meatballs. Pizza. I got to
The
keep
real
my pizza.
answer, the real answer is really neither one is bad. That's for sure. But I would have to go pasta.
Yeah,
The versatility of pasta, the cost efficiency of making pasta. Just, I'm Italian. Pasta, yes, pizza as well, but pasta.
Yeah,
You could do
I agree.
so many different meals with pasta.
Man, I've been off pizza for a while. I'm not gonna lie to you, and I don't know. Maybe I don't know what changed in my life. I used to be a big pizza guy all the time, and lately I haven't been able to really get into pizza as much as I would have liked. Especially restaurant type pizzas. I mean, there's calzones. Don't get me wrong. Shout out to my boys Shane at Calzones and whatnot.
Phenomenal.
That's a phenomenal pizza. But other than that, I struggle sometimes to find a good pizza. And my father makes a very good pizza, but you can't just order from
from your parents.
I've been told that if you've never traveled to Italy, the day you go to to Italy and come back, you kind of go through this like craving or addiction for pizza, even though you should probably get your fill in Italy. But when you come back, it's kind of like you're going and look for
I-
the tagliata style pizzas that they have in Italy.
Yeah,
So maybe that's the answer, Dave. Maybe
I've
that's
been
the
I've been
solution.
to Italy. I've been to Italy, and to be honest, in Italy, it's something about their cheese in Italy. It's just phenomenal compared to here. And I know
That's
there's like
made that you're at the source.
I know, but it's ridiculous, and that's why their pizzas over there are ridiculous. Like the calzones there, I went to a place in Bari, where my father's from, in the south of Italy, and just the most ridiculous calzone I've ever had in my entire life. Like I could eat that every single day. If you were to tell me that calzone specifically against pasta, that calzone would win. But I don't think I could ever find that place ever again. So
It's
it
in
has
the
to be
mix.
pasta for me.
Listen, there's no wrong answer. You ended on the perfect. I don't think there's a wrong answer. I know we're going deep into this now, but yes,
Make it quick.
I like a pasta with a red wine now more than I did a pizza with a beer. But you tell me I can't ever have pizza again. No, it would hurt too much. I gotta keep my pizzas in my life. I got it.
That's fair.
The next time I host an episode, there will be another choice like this. You better be prepared.
I like it.
Everybody, this was episode 23. Thank you all for joining. This was Get Pucked. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, follow our Facebook page. Most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to watch us. You can listen to us on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio. Thank you all for taking the time. We appreciate your support and love. We'll be back with another episode soon. I do want to mention that we will be starting a new episode series called ABC, Anything But Canadiens. It'll be a short episode where we will definitely talk about any other team in the NHL other than the Montreal Canadiens. It might be something along the lines where we pick one team and we just talk about that team, or we'll just talk about all of it all at once. We shall see. But stay tuned for that. More details to come about that in the near future. This was Get Pucked.
Thank you. Get pucked.